Uh, Hello, everybody. Don't mind me. I'm just over here adjusting things. We'll have more people joining us soon. Here we go. All right. And hello. Hi, everyone. It is Sunday, which means another Cause Talk Live. Don't mind my super fluffy hair. Apparently, it just wants to be crazy today. And it can't figure out what color of... All right. So, hi, I am Sam from Thermo Cosplay, and I will be with you today for this stream. Today, we're going to be talking about doing, oh God, what are we talking about? Also, I just realized I forgot lipstick. Well, it's already started. We're already streaming. I am not going to have lipstick today. I just looked at it like, wait, where's my lipstick? It's gone. So, hi, cool gamer. So today we're talking about shooting on location and what you can do. Also, if anybody has an idea on what my background color should be right now, it's pink. My background lights are pink, but if you want a different color, let me know. I can change it. I think I can change the color. I don't know where the rest of my friends are. They're supposed to be here, but it would seem that they are running behind. So we're just gonna get started without them. If you are joining us for the first time, I am Sam with Cause Talk Live, also known as Thermo Cosplay. We started streaming in 2020 and have just kind of grown since then. Currently, we are only streaming on YouTube and Facebook. We're experiencing difficulties with both Kick and Twitch. So until we can get some of those security issues resolved, we won't be streaming with those. I'm also not wearing my gloves right now because it makes it easier for me to type, but I do have them. I'm Shinha from Genshin Impact right now, and I'm just partially ready because I looked at the clock and was like, oh no, I need to turn on the stream. Oh no. So, hello. Let me share this with my buddies on the other side, and that way, if they just can't find the link, that's okay. Stuff happens. So here we go. All right. Okay. So has anyone, like, as you're joining, tell me if you have gone to a different location to shoot. Shooting on location is a little bit more different than most people when they're dressed in cosplay. They're more familiar with shooting at a convention or at a gathering place. But you can actually set up a time with a photographer and you can shoot on location. A lot of the times when you're shooting on location in a costume, there are several things you want to consider before you even book the photographer. Okay, these are very important things that you want to think about before you book your photographer. So number one is you want to think about your costume itself. So this is Shinha has like a lot of really loose pieces. You want to think about things that might drag on the ground, may catch on bushes. You may want to think about things that could get dirty easily. If can you wash it? So think about the environment that you're taking your costume to. Also consider, will there be a lot of people there? Am I going to run into the public, and am I comfortable with running into the public while in costume? I know some people, they love to dress up when they're at conventions, but then when they go to a photo shoot, they don't realize that some places that you do shoots in are public, and you might have people approach you and ask you questions, and that might not be something that you're comfortable with doing. So that's okay. Also, my earring just fell out. I'm just having a costume day. Nothing wants to stay in. Okay, let me see if I can keep my earring on. We'll see, guys. I don't promise you anything. I have like these tiny ears that earrings don't like to stay in. It's like a curse of mine. We'll see if this works this time. May or may not work. The other one's probably trying to fall out too. Yeah, it is. Tiny ear curse. Okay, well, we'll see if this earring stays this time. But the thing about, like I said, shooting on location, big thing, consider your costume first. If you feel as though you can't wear your particular costume to a location, then maybe save that one for convention. But there are a lot of places that you can consider to shoot at too. I mean, you can take your costume and go get photos at a mall. You could take your costume and go get photos in front of a church or in a park. public park. So there's lots of places that you can get photos at. But like I said, consider what the costume is. Do you want to drive in it? Are you going to have someone drive you? Do you want to get dressed on location? If so, do you have a pop-up closet, or are there bathrooms you can change in? Just these are things you want to think about when you're not going to shoot at a convention, but you're going to do it outside of a con and at a special location. Another thing you'll want to consider when you're shooting, let me pull up some images because this one's kind of, this will give you guys some ideas of what I mean by shooting on location. Uh, because I guess, people would consider conventions being on location, right? That's kind of a thing. But that's not what we mean when we say shooting on location. So let me open this. This costume. So I shot this costume outside of a lawyer's office. That's going to seem a little odd to some of you, but I did. I shot this costume outside of a lawyer's office, and they had a beautiful, like beautiful environment. But whenever you go on location to what you believe is a public building, make sure you look for, there are going to be these like little placards on the building itself. And if there's a placard on the building that talks about media or photography, please read it. A lot of places are starting to put them up or put signs up, and they tell you what you are and are not allowed to do at those locations. Some of them say, hey, it's perfectly fine to do photos at our location, but please let us know in advance. A lot of them are saying, hey, if you do it on the weekend and you're respectful of the space, then we don't really care. So that's what I did. I went on a weekend when the offices were closed, so I knew I wouldn't interrupt any of their work, and I shot Nadia from the Arcana, which is a mobile game. And this background, you would not realize that right across the street is like this bike and car repair shop, and there were just cars everywhere. But King Car Photography took these photos for me, and they were really good about hiding the background and blurring it out, so I was the main focus. But the lights filtering in through the trees and from the stoplights created really cool ambiance. And that's something that you don't necessarily get when you're at a convention. You're having to work around so many people that it's hard to keep individuals from being in the background of your photos. That's the benefit of doing a photo session outside of a convention or outside of a gathering. You guarantee one-on-one time with the photographer, and you can take more time to really get the poses and the lighting that you want. So we chose golden hour, which is when the sun is about to set, and it has some of the most beautiful lighting. And we chose these archways where the light was cascading down over it and reflecting off of the stone in a really pretty and subdued way. And then once the sun had set, we found this railing and balcony area that had a lantern, and we were able to use the light from the lantern and the light from the flash to help continue with our photography. But as you can see, these photos are beautiful. And again, this is at a lawyer's office that was, by the way, under construction. I had to pose in certain ways and angle my back to hide some of the construction equipment and some of the broken stones. But these photos are some of my favorites because you would not realize that you would think I'd gone to maybe a castle or a really nice studio, and instead it was just this lawyer's office near where I lived that had just really nice architecture. So be on the lookout too, whenever you're a cosplayer, be on the lookout for unusual spaces, because sometimes you would be surprised by what you can do. Okay, so I just got a message saying it is just me streaming today, so we're just going to focus on those things. If you guys have any questions about shooting on location and what you should do, what you should not do, any problems you've run into, just feel free to ask them. You're more than welcome to ask those questions. So let me go ahead and continue on. Another thing you're going to want to think about, as you saw, the costume I showed you was pretty easy to wear, all self-contained. I wasn't too concerned about it. But there were some costumes. Let me see if I can find. So I did a photo session several years ago at an anime convention. I honestly cannot remember if it was or was not Taiyu. I think this is before all of the, it was Taiyu, and it was before all of the information came out. And so, but this particular location has a hotel attached to it. And in the background are these really pretty fountains. Now you can see, unfortunately, obviously, because it is a hotel and it is an event space, you're going to see rooms, but this would technically be considered on location because it's not within the event space proper. It's adjacent to where all of the programming occurs. And one thing about this is there were a lot of times when we were shooting here that we had to stop because someone wanted to walk by, take a couple photos, and then go. And that was fine. So that's another thing too. When you are shooting on location or when you're shooting somewhere that's a public space and people have access to it and you don't need permits, you are probably going to have to pause. So make sure you talk to your photographer and work in extra time during your photo shoot to address those predicaments. Most photographers are familiar with this. They understand that there's going to be moments where we have to angle shots, move around, change positions, just so that we ensure there aren't people in the background. And this is something that a good photographer should know. But if they don't know it, it's okay. They might be new, or maybe they're really good at photos, but they haven't ever done an on-location shoot. So do give them some grace. That's really important too when you're taking photos as a cosplayer, whether you're using it for yourself or you're using it for sales. There's some things you want to consider. Make sure you talk to your photographer about what you're wearing. Give them some reference photos so they figure out, okay, they can make a suggestion for a location, or you can tell them what location you prefer. Another thing too, if you are going to sell your the photos that the photographer is taking, you'll need to have a different contract. Photographers, by law, immediately own the copyright of any photo that they take, which means you cannot sell it without their permission. Now, there are certain contracts, and they can basically make you like a partner to the copyright, and so that you are allowed to do it, or they can say, hey, for this period of time, you're allowed to sell my photos and make a profit off of it. Just understand that anytime you're doing photos like that with a photographer, you probably are going to have to update or renew your agreement with that individual, because they can revoke the copyright from you at any time since they are the owner. So just make sure, if you're a cosplayer and you're getting photos taken, that you tell the photographer what you intend to use their photos for, so that you don't end up in any sort of situation. But when the pandemic happened and everything was quarantined, I got my my booster a little bit earlier than everybody else, because I was volunteering, and I got a chance to go out and take more photos. So one of the things I did do was I did actually reserve a castle. In Arizona, there is this place called Ashley Manor, and it is a small castle. They took stone by stone from Scotland, a castle that was sort of crumbling, and they brought it back to life as a new building inside Arizona, and it's an event space. I believe I think it's $200 an hour, you can use the entire event space to take photos in anywhere. They have dressing rooms in there because it is a wedding venue. They have two sets of dressing rooms, one for men and one for women. They also have some gender neutral areas. They have a beautiful exterior garden. They've got a castle tower. They have a dining area. So if you're looking for something that's multifaceted and you need a location that you need to shoot in for a long time that has closer to studio lighting, I recommend Ashley Manor in Chandler, Arizona. If you're located in Arizona, if you're not located in Arizona, there's probably a lot of really good places in your area. The thing with Arizona, because it's so hot, and I'll just give you guys a clue, I think it's 114 today. And for those of you who are not in the Fahrenheit scale, I think 114 is 40. I think is it 45 degrees Celsius? Yeah, that's the thing I gotta remember. It's I think 114 is, let's take a look. Mm, okay, why is my number not working? I was right, it is 114. Okay, so 45 degrees Celsius is what it is right now where I live, which is why most of our photo shoots we can't do outside. A lot of the greenery we have to is cacti, which is cool for certain setups. But taking photos on location in Arizona during our summer typically means we do indoor shoots. So be mindful if you want a really nice professional setting that you'll probably need to save up some money. Like I said, it's $200 an hour for Ashley Manor, and I believe they limit the number of people that are permitted in that session because they want to make sure that it's controlled and everyone's respectful of the space. But let me share with you what that looked like and kind of talk about some of the things. So this particular shoot was in the summer. I was wearing Merida. She is a stretch velvet dress that I have to wear tights and big boots under and a very heavy wig. So I was very warm and I tried to do as many of the photos inside with my photographer. A lot of it too, we had to do angles because this is an event space, not convention, specifically a wedding event space. There are different setups and welcoming areas and signs that we were trying to avoid and shoot around to make it look like I wasn't in a modern world. I was more, in old Scotland. Obviously, the flooring is very updated, but we did our best. The windows are obviously updated too, and there are some things that you're just unless you literally fly over to a location that has these old castles or these ruins, it would be very difficult to emulate, but you can get as close as possible. And if your photographer is good, you can ask your photographer to edit out anything that might be too modern or ask permission to make those edits and then have them approve the photo. So make sure you're constantly working with your photographer anytime you're doing shoots. But the thing with this on shoot location is when we did go outside, this is when, before we went outside, I had a discussion with my photographer about what I wanted to do because it was 110 degrees outside that day. And I was wearing a whole lot of clothing. So we talked about these are the positions we want to get. This is the angle that we're looking for. This is the mood we're going for. And I think we spent maybe only 10 minutes outside because of the heat. So that's part of the tower behind me. As you can see, no one would think I'm in Arizona right now, but I am. I am in Arizona in these photos. And that's why finding locations that fit your character are so crucial if you're going to use your cosplay photography as a portfolio or, you know, use it as example and kind of show existing or show conventions that you may or may not want to guest at. Hey, this is what I can do. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I could wear to your event. And that's kind of the reason of getting professional photos is showing yeah, professional, and then I'm sticking my tongue out. Yeah. The thing with professional photos is showing conventions or event spaces or maybe a sponsor what you're capable of so that it's kind of like a visual resume. Give you guys a little brief moment of my talking so you can enjoy some of these photos. They were really fun and I loved this space so much, but it was so hot that day. It was, like I said, it was 110 degrees. So um I probably should have worn a different character, but I really wanted to do a photo shoot in Merida, and so we did do it later in the day. I think we did it closer to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That space only allows shoots to occur from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. because after 5 p.m. is when they have all their tastings and special events and rehearsals, so you can only shoot between 10 and 5. And they don't allow shooting on weekend because well, they used to when they had available weekends. They haven't had available weekends in a while, but someone apparently ruined the weekend shooting. So that's why I keep reiterating being respectful of the space. For instance, we have a Japanese friendship garden here in Arizona, and they used to allow people to just take photos. They didn't charge them while they were in the garden, but then several people kept walking behind the railing or walking into the actual foliage, and they destroyed thousands of dollars worth of plants that then had to be imported from Japan. They had to repair everything, and now photography is strictly prohibited during working hours because they only allow shoots before or after the park is open. And the Japanese Friendship Garden now also charges so that if there are any damages that are caused due to the photos, they can recover their losses. There's also an agreement you now have to sign. So if you're respectful of the space, more of these event venues, more of these parks, more of these gardens aren't going to restrict your ability to take photos. except in cases where it's a government protected location or park. You have to get a photography permit if you're going to one of those and you intend to market yourself with those photos. If you're just doing it for fun, they're usually a lot more relaxed. But if you're going to use it in any sort of website marketing, on your portfolio, on Instagram, if you're going to post it anywhere that can potentially promote your brand, you have to pay for a permit. And the cool thing about these parks is there's usually gas stations and places just outside of them that sell the permits, and they're typically between $18 and $100 depending on what national park you're going to. So just be mindful of that. I've had the reason I know this is I've had a park ranger come up to us when my friend was just dressed up and painted up and was like, "What the heck? We're already driving. Why don't we stop here on the way back and get these cool photos?" And they're like, "Well, why are you doing this?" And we're like, "Honestly, we're just doing this for fun. Is there something wrong?" And then they were the ones that told us about, hey, just so you're aware, national parks require permits for photography, and that's because you're essentially making money at the government's dime. They're taking care of the parks and they want to make sure you've got a permit if you're making money photographing that region. So just a heads up for people on that. There's so much that's involved with shooting on location that you may not consider. It's really unusual. There's so many things that I didn't think about when I was doing when I first started shooting different locations. I'm gonna see if I can find. I know I have it somewhere. Uh, so oh yeah, the Cause Talk Live group, we couple years ago decided to go to a cabin in Pine Top, Arizona. So let me go ahead and share. Or it's not letting me show you guys this. Will it let me show you guys this? Oh, I'm sorry. I have to okay, there we go. Now I can share my screen. I have too much security on my computer. Hello, Anthony. I am dressed up as Shinha from Genshin Impact. So, well, like I said, a couple years ago, the Cossack Live group, some of us went to a cabin, and when we went to the cabin at night, we just we just took some fun photos, and we were out in the woods. There was like a random cabin, but it was empty. Nobody was there. Sometimes it's fun just to take a group of friends and take your cell phones and just do some fun shoots somewhere. We did this because it was the summertime, it was really hot, and we were looking for some kind of reprieve from the heat. It helped so much. We stayed there a couple days, and we did some night shoots, we did some day shoots, we did some videos inside the cabin for kind of a cabin aesthetic. And there's me taking see people tired in the background going, oh, the thing with cosplay photography that you may or may not know is there's a lot of timing and setup. There's a lot of moments where we're having to oh, let me fix your cape for you. Oh, let me lift this up. Oh, hang on, let me get this angle. It's pretty common in shoots where you have to do this. So just understand you'll need to be patient on location, which is why we always recommend setting more time than you think you need. But I mean, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. So, I definitely love that location. Another thing you'll wanna consider when you're shooting outside of a convention is, I mentioned it earlier, but, like, dirt and grime and things, like, I had a bush. So Arizona's bushes are angry, they have a lot of thorns, um, and I had a bush catch my costume, and it ripped it, and I was devastated because I had to oh god, I had to fix this costume and it was not cheap. I was really, really sad. So if you have a costume that is very important to you and you know for a fact that you are not going to take it outdoors, that is where I recommend doing a studio. So let me show you what a studio looks like. It's really plain, it's really simple. The great thing about studios is they usually have white or green backgrounds, so you can completely replace the background. So I did a photo shoot. for a local photographer, and I was a model for him. And you can see equipment in the background, you can see all the lights and stuff, but that doesn't matter because what he'll do is he will zoom in and make edits and remove anything that he didn't like. So that's the cool thing about studio shoots is you have such control, and you can like even the photographer can bring the really expensive equipment and not be worried about it having exposure to the elements because it's in a controlled space. Also, most studios will have changing rooms, they'll have a makeup area, they'll have a clothing rack that you can store costumes on. So I was able to bring two costumes and do two different characters for this particular photographer, which is super beneficial. It's really nice when you can do that. Let me see if I can find. We also Costuck Live a little while ago. I think I've got it. I just got to remember where I have it. We did a shoot at Pixie Pros. Um, Man, sometimes finding things like I was telling everybody that I just celebrated 9 years as a cosplayer, but the problem is when you've been cosplaying for 9 years, sometimes you're like, where did I store that? Where did I store that last bit of pictures?" And trying to find them. Oh, I found them. Okay. I'm like, "I know I had them somewhere." So we we did a shoot at a studio. There's a lot of these selfie studios that have been popping up, and we did a series of shoots at these. So let me open up these photos and share them with all of you. These were a lot of fun too, and this is also a very controlled space. Yes, Lillian, angry foliage. We Arizona, most of our plants have thorns or needles or just something that's warning you not to touch them. But so is it still showing? I can't tell. Okay. So the thing with studio shoots is it's air conditioned. Again, you can change things. The great thing is because you're in a controlled environment, you don't have to worry about your makeup melting off when you're outside and in the atmosphere and being exposed to it. You always have to bring makeup to touch up because you never know if you're going to sweat too much or if you bump up against something, you're going to take your makeup off. So a studio is a really ideal environment for individuals who haven't done on location shoots before and they need to like if you're unfamiliar or you're new, it's probably safer. Always bring a buddy with you, but I do recommend starting with a studio or seeing if you can find those selfie studios or even this sounds goofy, but movies theaters have those little selfie booths that are getting bigger now. Even those are a great place to start if you're wanting to get some cute photos while you're in a costume and just kind of test the waters of wearing a costume in public. Because yes, while you're in a studio and you can change while you're there, half the time I don't want to be bothered with changing into my first outfit if I'm going to a studio. I already want to be in my first outfit, so I show up in that. Off and on I've forgotten to get gas, and I've gone to a gas station and complete full cosplay. So just I honestly kind of recommend going out and doing shoots amongst the people, amongst the public, because it does get you more comfortable in wearing an outfit. And it also, when you're doing these test runs of your costume for photos, it kind of gives you an idea of how long can I wear this? Is this something I can tolerate wearing at a convention? Is this something I should wear at a convention? So that's another good thing to figure it out. But this is Ambrose Cosplay, and we just had Mission Control Photography doing photos for us. Why is it not? Go to the next photo. Oh, why you hate me? Why you do this to me? Why are you so mean? It's just all right, I know what I can do. I am just going to open up I know one of these is yeah, let me share this again. So I'll share this. Yay, gotta love when it doesn't want to work. Okay, so this particular photo I wanted to talk a little bit about. When you're at a studio, they usually do have props. The thing with props though is half the time at studio locations, the props and furniture are almost child size. So Ambrose is not a large person. Ambrose is like maybe 5'3", 5'4", and very slender. And she made this couch look teeny tiny. So you can get an idea of how small some of the props might be when you go to a studio. So if you are going to a studio, you are trying to get a certain look, check with them in advance, see what props they have out on presentation, but sometimes they have props in the back that you might be able to use as well. See if there's any cost associated with that. And if there isn't, I recommend using those props to your fullest advantage. But be aware that you may have to adjust angles, because there was another photo of her on this couch and they adjusted the angle and it looked like a normal size couch. So you will have to play with angles a little bit. And the great thing is you have as much time as you need, depending on I guess how much you've reserved for the studio. I know a lot of these selfie studios give 1 and 2 hour options that are pretty decent for rate too, and then whatever you're paying your photographer. And even the cool thing about some of these selfie studios specifically is they also hire photographers. So then you can say, hey, I'd like your local photographer services. Or if you're going to a studio that's not a selfie studio, you can ask that studio for recommendations for local photographers, because they usually have a list of individuals that they hire out that are familiar with that particular space. But this is where I recommend anyone who's going to shoot on location starts. Okay, quiet phone. I did not realize that I had not muted my phone, so let me mute my phone, and then we won't have any more problems. There we go. Yes. Shush. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Let's see. If you guys, again, if you have any questions about cosplay photography, posing, modeling, shooting on location, please ask. We've got about 28 more minutes to go, and goodness knows I can always talk. But if you have other questions, feel free to ask me. One thing, let me go. I have more shoots that I wanted to share with you. But another thing I recommend looking out for is, in a lot of downtown areas, think about the graffiti they have there, because sometimes graffiti can be a really cool backdrop. So this is what I mean. I did a Ceres Victoria shoot with a friend, and I really love this shoot because the graffiti that we found was some of my favorite, and it kind of fit this whole anime theme, right? It almost, if you just crop out that plant up above and you crop out the little warning sign on the left, I am Godzilla sized Ceres Victoria and I'm just taking on the world. See, like, this was just, it's so cute and very animated, and it worked really well for this character who has kind of a duality in her personality. She's very hyper and very diligent, but then she has this dark side because she was turned into a vampire. And I like this location. It was a church that they had local graffiti artists come and do a whole wall of art, and it was really, really cool. And then on the other side was just this really nice, very beautiful church building, and then they have an orchard. So there's a whole bunch of opportunity there. You can do, there's trees to climb in, there's fruit trees, there's really nice bushes, or there's this very modern building you can use as a backdrop, or the graffiti. So again, finding a multifaceted location is super important if you're going to shoot more than one look. And even if you're not, if you're only shooting one look for that day, just writing and making note that this is a location that's good for you, it's very helpful. This was also shot, this was shot in the morning. So we did it shortly after sunrise. So before the light became brightest, because Arizona's sunlight is very bright. We still had to have a lot of diffusers. That's one thing you'll need to consider whenever you're doing on-shoot locations, is most of the time a photographer is going to be themselves and possibly a helper. Always come with a partner. Even if you trust that photographer, always bring a handler, always bring someone to be with you, just for safety. And also they might remind you, they might be like, hey, you have a hair out here, or, hey, you've got a button or zipper down. They might notice things that photographers don't immediately. And they could also tell you, hey, I know, Sam, that you like your lipstick, which I forgot today, done a certain way, so let's do this. So always consider But I always recommend, actually don't consider, just bring someone with you when you're doing on shoot locations. Even if you're at a convention too, if you're doing a photo shoot at a convention, bring someone with you. This. See, this is the thing where I mentioned having someone with you is important. So you see where when I sat down like that and I moved, I didn't know that my glove had caught the other button underneath, and you can see my skin through because the fabric separated when my glove caught it, right? So that's one thing that's important, having my friend there with me. The photographer didn't notice it, but if I'd had my sister or one of my buddies with me, they would have been like, "Oh, hey, Sam, you've got a little skin showing." Like, "Oh, my bad. Okay." Also, where the belt sits, it had a tendency to pluck one of the lower buttons. So, yeah, sometimes I was just showing my belly. Also, a few times I dropped my tooth and had to go run away and wash it because I wasn't going to touch it when I went on the ground. Just the things that can happen at photo shoots. They're pretty funny. Um, hello, everybody. It's just me today. We have some individuals who aren't feeling well. It is 114 degrees here in Arizona, 45 degrees Celsius. So the heat has unfortunately taken some of my comrades from me. They are exhausted, which is understandable. It's pretty warm. Now, this next one is funny. So the next location that I've shot at before is literally a tunnel underneath the lake. It's an access tunnel, and it's for golf carts. But it has the coolest, like, when you shoot there, the photos end up looking so cool. Apparently I had a whole thing of. All right, so are you just. Oh, I didn't actually open. Let me open the photos and then I can actually share them, right? Okay. Here we go. So this is I did X-Men, which is great because they go everywhere, so you don't have to think about a specific location for them. But this is the tunnel I was talking about, and we liked to put lights. The photographer would bring lights, I would bring lights. I've done shoots with friends here. I've had photographers do photo shoots here of me. You can bring lights, and because it's this just aluminum service tunnel, the reflections are really cool. And then when you do it at night, because it's dark at the other end, it's even more interesting. But it's a great place for like moody shots or something where you want to solo. But occasionally, and I'm gonna find this. Occasionally, we would, when I did my master shoot here, we found grocery carts. Like, it was where every grocery cart went to die, I guess. And it really amused me because there were just so many grocery carts. It was weird. Um, but sometimes you find unexpected props and have fun with them. Just enjoy. So this is the same location. Obviously, the mood's a little bit different because we just stuck with the silver for this particular photo. But King Cart did play around with some of the lighting. And apparently I'm showing my leg off. Have fun in between photos. Get that tension out, get that nervousness out, and we're like, ooh, hey, have fun, enjoy yourself. But here's when I kind of really started setting into the Grandmaster mode, and we set lights up at different points so you get more of more depth from the photo. And then right here, you'd have no idea that I was in a tunnel, right? So angle is everything. And if you notice that your photographer's not getting different angles, encourage them to do so. Let me take a drink break. And if you can see my water, yes, it's green. It has greens in it. Have fun again. Enjoy yourself. If you're like me and you're photosensitive, do tell your photographer if they want to catch action shots that they can't do multiple flashes. They can only do one. I had one photographer I didn't warn, and one photographer I didn't warn. Why? I can't speak. And it made me so dizzy I had to sit down because they did rapid succession and they didn't warn me and I almost passed out. I'm epileptic, and while I don't have seizures during the day, I have them at night. It caused an anxiety attack, and it startled me, and it just make sure you talk to your photographers about any photosensitivity you have, specifically with flash. But here we've went from a red light to a blue light, and it's really cool. I always find it interesting how much light colors can change a mood. I really like that. The cool thing about this too is we shot this in the summer as well, but because it was in a shaded location, so it was like 105 degrees this day. But because we were in the shade, I think it ended up only being like what month was this that we shot this? Yeah, so I think it only ended up being like 80 degrees in the shade, which isn't too bad. It was very manageable. Especially with this over jacket that Grandmaster wears, it's actually really hot. It has multiple layers in it, and it's very long and heavy, and it drags on the ground, and that's another thing, this dragged on the ground, but Grandmaster's costume entirely can be washed in a washing machine and disinfected. I wouldn't have done this with, Safina. I would have avoided a really super dirty place like this. And we're about to see the grocery carts I was talking about. So now you can see how long and heavy that particular robe is. And the grocery cart. Grandmaster's just shopping through the universe. And apparently I was supposed to get a cookie, but I didn't. Like, the sign says I'm supposed to get a cookie. So, yeah. And the funny thing is when I was turning it, it hit a bump in the service tunnel and flipped over. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna use it as a chair now. So happy accidents, guys. Happy accidents happen in more than just painting. Thanks, Bob Ross. So don't I mean just think about that. So we've kind of shown you some different locations. I've shown you like where I had to travel up to the mountains and bring costumes. I've showed you local stuff. What happens if you want to do photo if say you're going to a convention but you want to do a photo in the region, right? So one, make sure again that you check the rules for whatever location you're going to shoot at. Make sure you don't need a permit, and if you need to find local photographers, it's always good to join the convention's forum or group on a social media and see who other people are recommending, because you can post, hey, I'm new, I'd like to get photos, who can you guys recommend locally? And that's a good way to do it for finding photographers out of state. But I have done a few shoots out of state before. Let me see if I can find so when I was at Emerald City Comic Con this year, um, I had a friend, and in the back of the convention, there is this really pretty, sort of like it's like a garden space. So let me go ahead and open this and just show you some of the photos we had. And the cool thing about this garden space is so you can consider a convention an on location shoot, but again, I recommend shooting um outside. So this is a terrace that's a part of the new Seattle Convention Center Summit building. And some of these photos that we got were super pretty. This one's a little blurry because we were laughing and he shook because I started giggling. But you can get amazing shots at, I mean, right here, you wouldn't know we were like, we're obviously in some kind of downtown metropolis, but you probably wouldn't know that we were at a convention. And that's, I mean, you can tell in the windows there, oh, look at all the convention goers, people are going. And, but it's angles, reflections, time of day. Um, this is where I was talking about when you shoot at a convention and you consider that your own location, there's so many people in the background, and getting them out of the background is very difficult to do. And we've had moments where this young lady was so excited to see our dressed down version, like basically breakfast club version of Mario, that she really wanted to have a photo with us. So we took photos. And that's one thing you'll run into if you're going to do your photo shoot at a convention, is you'll probably have people asking, can I take a photo with you? So don't be surprised by that. Again, there are people in the background. It's hard to find a place where you're not going to have someone interrupt your photo when you're trying to do them at conventions. So you have to usually crop a lot more. I just realized that photo in the corner, it looks like that guy is eating that pole. It's epic. But you can get really pretty photos at a convention, absolutely. You just have to think about, I used, my umbrella as a prop. Speaking of props, okay, this is a topic I haven't talked about yet. So, hello, Matt. So, when you're shooting on location, be mindful of the props that you're bringing with you. Story time. I had a friend, and he and his buddy decided that they were going to do like a Deadpool, and Deadpool, I can't remember, but there were a couple other Marvel, more like anti-heroes that they were shooting, and they decided to bring realistic guns. Now, they were both ex-military, so they knew how to de-escalate the situation. But while they were crossing the street to their shoot location, a police helicopter pointed on them, and they were surrounded by police because it looked like they were walking around with AK-47s. So they quickly they very, calmly put their weapons down, put their hands up, and exclaimed, "We're costumers. We already called the local police. We told them what we were doing. We are not armed. Please come take anything else you want from us." And it de-escalated quickly, right? But they ended up on a local news place because people really thought they were guns. So we always recommend, if you're going to go anywhere and you're going to take photos with realistic weaponry, call the local police, call the local non-emergency police number, let them know where you're going to be, what time you're going to be, and ask them if they'd like you to send a picture to them. Some of them will request that. So make sure you're notifying your local police or security officers, whomever it is that might tackle you for bringing a realistic looking weapon, and notify them, this is fake, this is a photo shoot, this is just we're just reenacting photos for this particular character. I actually know someone that was detained because they thought they did have like a legitimate knife, and they didn't take those calm steps, and they didn't talk to them. I mean, it got sorted out. Everything was okay. But again, you'll want to be mindful in public spaces. That's why if you're going to use realistic weaponry, I always suggest reserving a studio. And if you're going to reserve a selfie studio, most of them are located in malls. So maybe don't bring the realistic weapons, or if you do, bring them in a duffel bag. And, when you get into that space, inform them, this is the type of prop I have. What part of the studio may I use so that I don't alarm the locals? But you'll want to consider your props. You really will. Even at conventions, they have prop restrictions for size and space allocation. So just be mindful, right, of what you're carrying around in public. Otherwise, you might have a police helicopter come at you in the middle of a downtown area asking you to freeze. It was, when I saw that video, I was like, wait, I know those two. It's just, I'm sorry I'm laughing. It was probably really scary at the time, but looking back on it, the fact that there was a police helicopter on a Deadpool that was just going to take photos with some friends is pretty wild. So I actually know a few people that have been approached that are Renaissance reenactors, and they were practicing for one of the local clan wars. They were practicing with their swords, so they were using the practice swords, not the actual metal swords, and they still had the police called on them. So anything that you could think would potentially be viewed as a threat, I always call the non-emergency police number and say, hey, just want to let you guys know this is where I'm going to be, this is what time I'm going to be, and this is what I look like. So if someone calls in, it's me. It's not a person trying to shoot up a location, it's me. And if you feel more comfortable, please send a police unit to verify that I'm not using realistic weaponry. There are times where they might send a police officer to confirm that the weapons you have are not real. So just be aware of that. It happens. It's real. I'm trying to think of what else. If you have any questions, let me know. We only have about 10 minutes left. I guess what I could do is pull this open. Let me go. So sometimes, because it is so expensive to reserve a space, I found the Pixie Pros folder. Because it is so expensive to reserve a space, you might want to go in to a studio with friends, and that makes sense. But make sure, one, that you talk to the photographer about it, or the photographers you're hiring. Two, anytime you're going in as a group, I always recommend reserving 2 hours because you're going to need that extra time. And three, look out for each other, right? So buddy system's important and it's really helpful. But when you're splitting the cost of a studio, make sure you get permission to do so. We reserved the entire, there was a place called Pixie Pros, and we actually reserved the entire studio for 2 hours for only $200, which honestly is not bad. And they ended up giving us a third hour because nobody had reserved that final hour. So we got 3 hours for $200, which was really cool. We were able to shoot several costumes. We were able to do videos and promotional content because they allowed that. And it was very fun to spend time with friends. Sometimes it's a cool way to hang out is to get everybody dressed up and go take photos with one another. It's a really fun bonding experience. And you can see that most of us weren't dressed when we came because there was a place to change, which is nice. I, again, really like these selfie studios because there are so many different types of backdrops that you can use. But you can always, if you can't afford studios, if you have a room in your house that has a blank wall, you could purchase a backdrop. Just they have little stands where you can just use thumbtacks and pin it to the back of your wall and get a really cheap ring light, and you can do your own photo sessions at home. So that is entirely possible. A lot of these photos of Chun-Li were me just taking selfies using the tripod that they had there and just going for it. Going crazy, having a lot of fun. What is wait when you find things that you weren't aware of? Oh, apparently someone took a video of me. Okay. But that's another way to get photos done on location if you necessarily can't afford it. So for instance, the Arizona Hive. Actually, I'm gonna pull this video up because this is a really good example. YouTube.com, and then they did a video. So this is, you don't have to only do photos, you can do videos. So Arizona Hive Umbrella Corporation. And this video was a group of us went to Ashley Manor, and I sponsored the shoots. Let me show you. Sorry, this is, there we go. Okay, and let's show you guys. This will be the last 6 minutes of us. This has been quite the evening, hasn't it?
It has.
Let me know if you can hear the audio. I think so. I suppose you want answers?
If it isn't too much trouble.
Very well. I did Lady Demetress, and we only had, I think, 2.5 or 3 hours to do everything. I think it was 2.5 hours. We could use the entire space, and we shot in the daytime on one. So we spent 2.5 hours at Ashley Manor, and then they spent another hour, and they went and shot in the woods, and then they combined both shoots into a video. Mind you, this is just a bunch of fans being goofy, so it's not perfect, but we enjoyed ourselves and had fun.
Who cares what they are? Where are we going? 2 o'clock. Head for that mansion over there.
And hello, Umbrella. Hello, Arizona Hive. Thanks for
Chris, Barry, this way.
Lady Demetress. That was really fun.
Get inside. Inside.
This is my first time doing anything like that. I was so nervous. I was glad I remembered my lines though.
Well, What do we have here?
Quite the mansion indeed.
Hello? Anyone home?
Wait, Wesker, where's Chris and Joseph?
Still no. Nobody's going back out.
But we've got to find them.
Gunshots.
All right, we need to get ourselves together. Here's the plan. Barry, Jill, you investigate. Keep your radios hot. I'll secure this area. I'll find a safe room to begin our escape plans and getting a hold of Brad. Everyone stay sharp and radio in if you have any problems. Clear?
This was fun, though. I mean,
We
again,
are searching for the helicopter of our compatriots.
it was
Bravo.
crazy.
Reports of families being attacked by a group of about 10
If anyone's
people.
familiar with Umbrella Association, it's Resident Evil, and it's been around a long time. So. The Umbrella Association is the local charity that raises money for animal shelters. And this video is kind of like one of their
Jill,
promotional materials.
Let her go.
I like your blade, but I like mine much better.
Let her go.
Oh, such a bore. Never mind. Only the woman thing will do.
Ugh. Oh my God.
Come with me, my beauty.
There's one point in here where I had to stop filming because I was worried about choking Jill. Okay. And obviously, I'm not like 9 feet tall, so you gotta get creative with the angles.
Mother,
This
I bring
just
you
shows
fresh
you
prey.
we're working with a lot of different rooms, a lot of different lighting. It's hard unless you
Well,
have a lot
now,
of rigs. It's very
What do we have
difficult.
here?
She stabbed your little girl with this.
Pretty nice. What does that mean?
That's the part where we had to shoot twice because I was worried about hurting her while I was pulling her up.
Bella,
And to
Daniela,
get this, like, we had them
Go
on
help
their
your
knees,
sister
which was pretty
Cassandra.
funny.
she's looking for any further
Thankfully, you can't see it in
intruders.
the reflection.
Yes,
but-
mother.
And the doors in this place look huge, so those worked really well.
Alone at last.
What are you people?
Why, I'm offended. We're but a simple Romanian family living our life to the fullest. Why, you, my dear, are an intruder who has broken into our home on this cold winter night.
Did you say Romania? Winter?
Enough. Let's see how you taste.
But this just shows you that depending on angles, depending on lighting, depending on the daytime, shooting requires a lot of work. A lot of
This has
control.
been quite the evening, hasn't it?
It has.
Those eyelashes, bro.
I suppose you want answers?
If it isn't too much trouble.
Very well. Where to begin?
Where am I?
That's the video, and that's everybody that was in it. It was fun. It was crazy, and that is shooting on location, photos and videos. So if you have any questions, let us know. Next week we are going to have 2 guests. We're going to start a little bit later next week. We're going to start at 5:30 p.m. to accommodate their schedule. So we have Lady Willsworth and Asgard joining us to talk about steampunk cosplay and historical just costuming, all kinds of things, right? So they have great performance. They're really fun people, and I'm very excited to have them. So it'll be Lady Willsworth and Asgard next week on Cos Talk Live at 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that this has been helpful. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.